Transportation enhancements, congestion mitigation, air quality, highway safety improvement program, safe routes to school, and scenic byways all remain cut by basically 70% in the upcoming 10-year plan. Silver lining, or point of good news, FTA 5310, which is the purchase of service we were talking about with the coordinated plan. That was completely eliminated in the original draft, and it got put back into the plan, funded at 66% roughly of what it was. I think it was funded at $800,000 per year before, and it's funded at $550,000, which it's something. It's not great, but it's definitely nice to have funding for purchase of service. It's really essential for a lot of these coordination efforts that we're trying to do in our region. And then just another comment that I noticed about the process, some projects were added back in to the 10-year plan from the deferred list that Department of Transportation had prepared. It seemed to me that a lot of the projects that were added back in were added in the first 2 to 3 years of the plan, and it looks like the first 2 to 3 years where DOT had done a pretty good job of keeping it constrained initially, where it was roughly $120 million a year. They kind of got bumped back up, and they look more like $160 million a year, 150. So just to put that in perspective, our current authorization, which is higher than DOT had anticipated by about 35%. So DOT anticipated getting about $100 million a year from the federal government, or from federal highways for the federal aid program. We're currently getting about $150 million from the federal aid program, and in this 10-year plan, the first 3 years are now asking for about, or programmed for about $160 million a year for the first 3, which sure it was a tough process. It's going to be a challenge for DOT to figure out how to somehow come up with the funding. So we're going to have some work to do down the road, it looks like.
I'd just like to add that the projects on the deferred project list were very strategically selected in compliance with everything. It pretty much reflects the meeting we had March, April of the policy committee to move forward, and the letter that we sent out. But make no mistake, this was a very strategic selection of the most critical projects and key projects in our region that will keep the entire network of the region moving forward. So, the Northwood project is a project that was removed for, the project is ready to go. That is a shovel-ready project. There's issues with the town of Nottingham not wanting to provide emergency and fire service. So that can be resolved with an MOA, a Memorandum of Understanding. The rest of these reflect various studies and corridor studies that were done, and priorities that have come through from our transit providers and other towns in the community and the Red List bridges. So it's the smartest list we could put together and still keep a strategy moving forward, because we're very strategy driven. And Bill Watson told us that we're very lucky how we came out of the GASA and the 10-year plan process. And my response is, well, that's because we're paying for the turnpike. So we have a lot of improvements going forward that benefit us, and we're paying every day with the tolls. So, if you pay, you get the improvements.
But I'm upset that the one in Mabry is on that list. That is a bad intersection. 155, Mabry Road, I go through that 2, 3, 4 times a day. I've been almost clobbered more than once.
That's why we put it up so high.
It should be high. They
This
don't
was,
slow down to 30 going through there, they go through 55, 60.
this was the number one project from the district, or close to the number one project
That was
from?
number one from District
Yeah.
6,
And
Madberry.
so it's the only new project that we moved forward.
There's about 45, 5,000 cars
Yep. Thank you.
going more in and out of Durham.
But if you look at these, we were working on all of our regional commute routes.
Yeah, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Where you coming from?
So you should do like I did, move from Madberry to Barrington. That's your real answer.
The other bad one's coming out of, on 125 from Ambleside.
That's absolutely.
That's a disaster corner.
You've got any number of them throughout the area.
We had 20 or so to pick from on 125 that we could have put
Yeah,
on the
there's-
list, so.
There's no lack of candidates.
No, there isn't, unfortunately.
All right, that pretty much wraps up what I had to say. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to do my best with them.
Ready to move on?
Oh,
Okay, we'll move on to 5.4, local project administration, and Cynthia will talk
Give
about.
Mark a break.
Yeah.
Okay, so DOT has released a draft guidance for local project administration, and this is an update and replacement of the Transportation Enhancement and Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program Manual, replacement of the Safe Routes to School Project Administration Guide, and a replacement of the New Hampshire DOT process for municipally managed federal aid surface transportation program projects. So the purpose is to provide a consistent and structured process for our local communities and also for other providers that would be involved in these projects. The most important thing for you to note is that the document is very thick and it includes all of the Code of Federal Regulations so that it's a one-stop shop for which regulations you're subject to when you take the federal funds. And so DOT is holding a public hearing to review and solicit comments about the manual on Wednesday, January 11th at 3 p.m. at the 7 Hazen Drive in Concord, the New Hampshire DOT primary building location. And Marilyn will be attending that meeting on behalf of Strafford Regional Planning and our communities and transit providers to note the questions and to bring forward any comments or questions that people from the region have that are unable to attend the meeting. So we strongly recommend that communities in the region review this and provide comments to DOT because this is what you will be subject to when you sign those local agreements and start your contract. And it should be noted that a new requirement is that local project sponsors and their consultants have to attend a mandatory training, and you need to earn project management certification, which is valid for 3 years. So you all know Marilyn, and she'll be glad to take forward any of your questions or comments and to bring back information. But she's going so that we hear what the concerns are from various communities throughout and the consultants throughout the state. So that's where that one is. Yes?
An open or closed meeting?
It's open, it's a public meeting. It's a public hearing. So let me repeat, it's a public hearing on Wednesday, January 11th at the John O. Morton Building, 7 Hazen Drive, Concord, reviewing and soliciting comments on the local project administration manual. And we have copies of that in the office.
It's a big document, so
It's
it's
a
not
very
something
large
we can
document.
send over email, but
Just reading.
yeah. Communities notice any issue with process in there that they might have a hard time with, those are big things to bring up now, so that they can be addressed before the document's approved.
And I know there hasn't been any discussion, but I have mentioned to Bill that I think it's very important that particularly the MPOs attend the meetings, and possibly we also are certified so that, you know, we're able to advise and assist both DOT and the communities and transit providers with questions and concerns that they have when they're administering contracts and trying to go through the consultant selection process. And
I think it's a great idea, and any
Yeah.
help we can get, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of regulations, and there's most of them are federal. We're just
Mhm.
trying to make sure that everyone understands what the federal regulations are, so we're all on the same page, and the projects move through, but the more help we get, the more understanding, the better off we for everybody.
right, right.
Appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. And just for an instance, we were asked by Newmarket for their transportation enhancement pedestrian bridge. They did a request for qualifications, and so they got 4 responses, and they asked us to sit in on it, and so on their selection process. And so we used that as an opportunity for all of us to go through the RFQ and learn what it's like and answer questions and provide comments. And then Mark was our representative, and so it was good for all of us. So we had, you know, an actual learning experience that was relevant to the real world, but we've all learned from that, and there was some really good responses. So it was a good one to participate in. That's it.
That's it, good. Move on to item 6, project updates. And now we're gonna let Dan shine.
Well, I just have a few quick updates I wanted to let everybody know about. The first one is about our Intelligent Transportation Systems, or ITS plan update. We have a signed contract with IBI Group out of Boston, Mass. We don't anticipate starting that until probably the new year. I'm pretty sure IBI is under the gun to meet some deadlines for the end of the year, so we'll probably start that up with the new year and get going on that as soon as possible and try to identify new stakeholders and get that process going. The other update is about our traffic count report, annual traffic count report. We're going to be putting that together in the next few weeks and should have that available on our website. We completed roughly 110 traffic counts this year. So this report will just be a summary of those counts completed. You'll have a count report for each location showing you daily volumes, hourly traffic. It should be a pretty good report if you're looking for traffic count information. That's all that I have.
Can I ask a question about that? On our city's website, we have a link, because people oftentimes want to know, particularly businesses, want to know how much traffic is going by a particular roadway, things of that sort. And what I've done is we provided a link to, there's a state document that has all of that. Does this information get updated to that? So I don't need to link to 2 places. That information will get updated to yours?
That's correct. Yeah, you send out everything traffic, and they put them all together in one list.
That's right, yeah. The data is a little bit different. We collect the raw data, and I understand that when it goes to DOT, I believe they apply a correction factor to it to...
And we have some factors, and we have some factors.
Sure.
applied to it, but
Okay, that's,
I still think it's probably one-stop shopping.
that's,
Yep.
because again, to the extent that we're providing access to information to folks,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we're covering all of the bases, and as long as your information is uploaded to your site, then I just need to put one link so people can get that information.
I recommend that. Then all the data they look at is consistent. We look at data among different regional planning commissions, it's all the same, because we process it the same way.
Right, okay,
So,
good.
one.
Thank you.
That's all that I had.
Right. A little bit. The annual listing of obligated projects for fiscal year 2011 is due or needs to be published by the end of December. We are very close to being finished with that right now. The document's been updated, the lists have been updated, and we're just doing a little bit of mapping, and we'll have that on the internet and send it around to communities.